Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again, where we talk about all things health and healing from a holistic perspective. And today will be no different. Now, in the previous video, I talked about how acid reflux is actually not caused by what we typically think in modern medicine as having too much stomach acid. It's actually caused by not having enough stomach acid. Now, I'm going to break that down for you a little bit. When you define heartburn or acid reflux, is often defined as caused by the backflow of acid from the stomach into the esophagus. Now, what's really important for us to distinguish there is that is not the cause, that is only a symptom, okay? And so typically in modern medicine, that's all we do is treat the symptoms. Now, when you treat the symptoms, you never actually heal. You have to do this for the rest of your life. You have to take a PPI for the rest of your life. You have to take a H2 receptor blocker for the rest of your life. You have to take antacids like Tums for the rest of your life, okay? Because you're only treating the symptoms. When you address the cause, which is more upstream, you relieve not only the symptom, but you relieve the actual cause, okay? So that's what we're gonna dive into. What is the cause of having low stomach acid? What's causing this condition? And the reason why that's so important, again, is because acid is essential to our health, okay? It's the first line defense for us. And the reason why I say that is because before our immune system can even detect a foreign invader, when that foreign invader goes into our mouth, because that's the primary way we introduce things into our body, okay? We may get some bacteria on the skin because we have a microbiome on the skin. We have a microbiome in our mouth, in our guts, and our orifices. But here's the thing, the primary way we introduce outside invaders to our body is through our food, via our hands or on the food. So the acid in the stomach is there to get rid of viruses, get rid of bacteria, things of that nature that could come on the food, that could be on your hands, okay? Now, when the stomach acid is too low, it can't protect you. The other really important thing is acid is there to help break down food. What do I mean by that? That acid is there to primarily break down proteins, but to break down the entire meal that you're eating to a mush, okay? That's called chyme. And that can't move into the small intestines until it becomes a mush, okay? You don't have enough acid there, the food is gonna rot and ferment, okay? That's really important as well too. And if the food can't be broken down, guess what? You can't pull any of the nutrients out of it. You're gonna be deficient. And so quite often we see people who have too low, their stomach acid is too low. What we'll see is that they'll have deficiencies in iron, vitamin B12, B vitamins, magnesium, potassium, calcium, the list goes on and on, okay? So it's so important that we understand like getting our acid levels up in our stomach to a normal level and a therapeutic level is so important, okay? So we're gonna dive into some of those causes, but before we do, what's important for us to know and understand, I just wanna reiterate this, is that there are very, very few conditions where the condition is actually caused by too much stomach acid, okay? There's a rare condition called Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, but that's a very rare condition. So when you really look at things, you start to see it's not caused by us having too much stomach acid. So why are we using all of these modalities that are focusing on lowering the stomach acid, okay? So let's jump into it. What are some causes of, our bodies getting to a position where now it has low stomach acid? One, toxins, okay? And the reason why that's so important is because toxins are essentially ubiquitous now. They're in our food, they're in the water, they're in the air, they're in household products, etc. And as they're going into our bodies, they're going into our bodies in so many different ways, through the skin, through the mouth, etc. They're not only affecting the body, but they're also affecting the digestive system too. And as a result, this can deplete us of many things, okay? And I even consider things like parasites and yeast toxins too, because these parasites and yeast create their own waste too. And as a result of creating their own waste, they also create their own toxins as well too, that can affect the stomach and the digestive system as well too. Number two, processed foods, okay? And just think about it for a second. If you're eating something processed, it has preservatives, thickening agents, dyes, emulsifiers. The list goes on and on. Now, your body, unfortunately can't recognize any of that because none of that is living. Okay, none of that is of nature. So it can't recognize it. So when it goes into the stomach, not only does it just sit there because the stomach doesn't know what to do with it, but also on top of that is wreaking havoc because they are chemicals in and of themselves. So it's really important to understand that processed foods will deplete you of your stomach acid, your hydrochloric acid. Okay, so processed foods and especially processed carbs. Okay, because we eat carbs at a rate that is almost like death defying. So you definitely want to get rid of the processed carbs and the processed foods, okay? And then there's coffee. Now, I know this is going to hit hard with a lot of people, but most people don't know and understand that there are some foods, some beverages out there that are both good and bad. And coffee is one of them. Coffee has nutrients in it that are healthy for you, but coffee also has some unhealthy things as well too. So one of those things is coffee is dehydrating. You'll notice that the more coffee you drink, the more you urinate. Okay. Also, what's really important is coffee is a mineral depleter. So it's going to deplete you of your minerals. One of those minerals could be chloride. Okay. You have to have chloride to make hydrochloride, which is acid. Okay. And also, coffee has caffeine. Caffeine stimulates the body. And when the body is stimulated, okay, in a stressed state, which we'll talk about a little bit later, it is going to shut down digestion, shut down the flow to the digestive system. Okay, so coffee. Also, a high-fat protein diet. And why? Because eating a lot of fat and a lot of protein, those of all the macronutrients, carbohydrates, fats, proteins, fats and proteins take the longest time to digest, okay? And so there are many diets out there that are focused on fats and proteins specifically and removing out most of the carbohydrates, which isn't bad if they're bad carbohydrates, but if you're removing a lot of the healthy carbohydrates like green leafy vegetables, fruits, and things of that nature, then you're gonna be in trouble because guess what? Fats and proteins quite often do not have any fiber, virtually no fiber. And fiber is required to digest. And when you don't have fiber, the unfortunate consequence of that is that it's going to be a long transition time throughout the entire digestive system, but also in the stomach, which is going to have the stomach reproducing acid over and over and over and over and over till the stomach becomes depleted. The parietal cells just shut down. Okay. So eating a high fat protein diet also could be a cause of why you have low stomach acid. Also, age. What we tend to see is people who have low stomach acid are often over the age of 65, but now we're starting to see it in younger and younger people. Okay, and why? Because of all the things that I mentioned before and all of the things I'm about to mention after this is really important. So age is a factor as well too. And then one of the biggest ones is medications, okay? I mentioned before PPIs, H2 receptor blockers, antacids, they lower, that is literally their job, to lower the acid in the stomach, okay? So, of course, as a result, you're gonna have low acid, okay, in your stomach. But also antibiotics and steroids as well, too. They will lower the acid in your stomach because taking an antibiotic, the upside is it kills the bacteria because they do not work against viruses. So you should never take an antibiotic for a viral infection, okay? But the thing is, when you take an antibiotic, it's not only killing the good bacteria, it's also killing the bad bacteria too, okay? So it kills both. But it also is like taking a hand grenade and throwing it in your digestive system. So it affects the digestive system, which could also affect the acid levels, and also steroids, as I mentioned before too. The next one is chronic stress. Okay, stress could definitely affect the stomach. And we know that because we know that chronic stress can lead to ulcers. And why does that happen? Because chronic stress, not stress in the moment, but chronic stress, daily stress, throughout the day type of stress. That type of stress decreases the blood flow to the stomach. Okay, and what does that do? A few things. It causes acid, pepsin, sort of ulceration, which could lead to ulcers. But the other thing is it depletes us of these protective prostaglandins. Okay, so it depletes us of those as well too. Okay, and now as a result, down the line, we essentially begin to not produce as much acid. Okay, so that's also a cause too, chronic stress. And so many people are stressed today, and so many people don't have an outlet to relieve that stress. So I'll leave you to your devices, but meditation, of course, is one. Yoga is another. Quiet, soothing music is also. So finding time in nature, those are the type of things that I recommend, to cope with stress, because, it's very difficult to be stress-free in the environment that we live in today. All right. The other thing that actually causes low stomach acid is deficiencies. Okay. So when you're deficient in iron, zinc, B vitamins, that actually leads to you developing low stomach acid, because they're key for actually forming stomach acid. Okay, so if you eat a very processed diet that don't have these key minerals and nutrients in them, then that could also deplete your stomach acid as well. And then the last one is going to be surgeries, especially a surgery like gastric bypass. That also could lead to stomach acid. And so what I'm going to do is give you an at-home test that you can use to actually determine whether or not you have low stomach acid. Okay. Now, some of the signs and symptoms of low stomach acid is going to be primarily, number one, indigestion, but also gas, bloating, nausea, vomiting, and then also burping. Okay. Which leads me to the at-home test that you can do. Take baking soda, about 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, put it in about 8 ounces of water. Okay, stir it up really good. Drink that in the morning before you eat absolutely anything on an empty stomach. And if within 1 to 5 minutes, like 5 minutes, you start burping, that's a key sign that you may have issues with low stomach acid. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and comment below. Let me know if you struggle with acid reflux, heartburn, indigestion, things of that nature, and then maybe you started changing your diet and then all of a sudden it went away. Maybe you did my detox and then all of a sudden it went away. Let me know some of the things that have worked for you in the comments. I'm always interested to see what people come up with, and see what works for them, because everybody works a little bit different. Okay, so until next time, peace and blessings and Godspeed.